Hi guys. Alright, so since I was supposed to yesterday talk about childhood memory, and I didn't, and it was more of a, whatever vlog. Yeah, and I got this red thing on my nose. You guys have probably seen in the last, I don't know, all my videos. I have no idea what the heck it is. For a while they're back, because it appeared in December. I figured it, was a zit, and then it would go away. And it's still here. And it drives me nuts. Because it's and normally I cover it with makeup, but my makeup, as you can tell, is kind of worn off. I put on a BB cream and that's it today. Sorry for foundation, but I did put on some eyeliner and mascara. That's why my eyes are a little bit not so bad. But, so childhood memory. I wanted to talk about, of course it still has something to do with my grandfather, is my sewing. I will, because I'm doing this on my phone, at some point I will do a whole video of all my sewing projects and actually show you guys what I have sewn. I started originally sewing outfits for my stuffed animals when I was probably 9 years old, and I did it by hand, and I would go, because my mom, she did Girl Scouts, and, she was a Girl Scout leader and a den leader for Cub Scouts, and so, we'd always have leftover, scrap pieces of felt, so I was always making clothes for my stuffed animals, and so every time I went to see my grandfather, I'd always make a new outfit, for my stuffed animal. So my grandfather then, I was probably about 11 years old, asked my mom, because my mom had a sewing machine. Really wasn't that great of a sewing machine, it just could do straight lines, and that's about it. It didn't have a zigzag or anything, it was old. So, but it worked. All my mom ever used it for was sewing curtains. And that was it, just fixing the hem on a curtain, and that was about it. So, when I was 11 years old, my grandfather talked to me, and he said, oh, what about, making an outfit for yourself? And I'm like, Grandpa, I couldn't do that out of felt. And, because I was sewing by hand, everything was done by hand. And he's like, well, no. So, he talked to my mom, and said, Janet really, she has a talent. His mother, my grandfather's mother, was a seamstress, a professional seamstress. And then on my dad's side, way back, his family, my dad's mom's side, the Capuano, which is Italian, they were royal. Well, not royal, but they were royal seamstresses. So, and we checked that on ancestry.com, which was really neat. Actually, if you ever get a chance to go on there and do that, that's fun. But anyways, so I had it coming down both genes that I had, a natural ability to sew. My mom can't sew, so she can't read a pattern. So anyways, so my grandfather talked to my mom and said, look, I'll pay for her classes to go sew, because we didn't have a lot of money. And the classes weren't exactly cheap. I think they were $50. And my mom's like, $50, and they were only 3 classes. So my mom's like, that's a lot of money for 3 classes. So my grandfather said, I'll pay for them, and, if Janet doesn't like sewing, I'll, drop it. So I went, and I loved it. I had so much fun going to the class. So, of course, I was bringing my projects to show him. And so he asked, my mom, what's the next class? And, the next session was to make shorts. So he went out and he found me a sewing machine. I do have the sewing machine that he offered me. It's an old push pedal sewing machine. It still works, but I'm not comfortable sewing on it because it was his mother's. So it was my great grandmother's. So it's an antique, and I have it, and I love it, because my grandfather was going to give me that. So, I still have the one that he went out and found me. I think he found it at a tag sale. It's an old, heavy, portable sewing machine. So then I made the shorts, and it was the first time I ever saw a pattern. I knew what I don't know what I knew how to cut the pattern out, and then I started sewing it. I finished, it was a 4-week class, and I finished the pair of shorts in my first week. Well, the first class. So then I think that was the next thing we made. We made a sweatshirt, finished that early. So then after that, the teacher said, Janet, you're too advanced for this kids class. You can do the adult ones. Well, what happened that summer is that the Parks and Recs department decided to stop doing sewing classes, so I didn't have anything. And I was kind of bummed out. I loved sewing. My grandfather loved it, I was then making outfits left and right. It was pretty sad when you walk into Walmart that, most of them knew the old women, but then to have, I was only, I think I was 13. Yeah, I was 13. And they go, "Oh, Janet, what are you sewing today?" "Oh, I'm making, just making a shirt, not a big deal." And then when my grandfather passed away, it was very hard for me to sew. I didn't sew that whole year. No. I finally started sewing because I did pageants too when I was younger, and we couldn't afford the dresses, so I would make my own pageant dresses, and I loved it. But I didn't do that until a little bit after. But I sewed my very first dress. It was almost, what was it? I started it in April, so it's been quite a, it was a while after he passed away, and I cried that first time I sewed. I just bawled my eyes out, crying because I missed him so much. And then I finished the dress, which I still have. I love it. It's beautiful. And my grandmother went, "Oh my gosh, your grandfather would love it." And so, then it kind of gave me the inspiration to keep going. Because she was always constantly, "Oh my gosh, he would have loved it." And not to say that my parents weren't proud of it, but, my grandfather was ecstatic. I remember when I made that first pair of shorts, he held on to them to show everybody what his granddaughter did. And the funny thing is, my other cousins sew, but also their moms do. But where mine was a natural, talent, and I love it. It was good. And then when my grandmother passed away, it was hard for me to sew. Very hard, because I missed them. The next time I picked up my sewing machine was when I was pregnant with my son, and that was how we announced that we were pregnant. I made these little birth cloths for everybody that said baby on them, and so I made that. And then the biggest thing that I did, and it's still the biggest thing I've ever done, was, and keep in mind, I was in my 3rd trimester, I made the costumes for the school play. It was Belle, so I did Belle's gold dress, pink dress, her blue dress, and then the 3 silly girls, I did all 3 of theirs. I did 6 dresses, and the actual performance, because I helped get Belle into her dress. I was 36 weeks pregnant. But the funny thing is that they put it in the paper that my grandfather would have, okay, I'm going to start crying, that my grandfather would have gotten, which I know he would have made sure he went and bought up every one of those because his granddaughter was in it. So, and I still, when I sew, I think of him. I bawl my eyes out every time I start sewing, but it reminds me of him. So yes, I do hope my 2 kids, or at least one of them, well, 3 kids, sorry, I didn't mean to forget about you, that one of them has the ability to sew, and at least, they will all know how to sew on a button, but one of them will end up with my talent of sewing. And if nobody does, well, that's okay. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I'll talk to you guys later, and I will do my pregnancy update soon. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.